If it's Tuesday, it's gotta be terrain. Hi guys, Wes from Broken Brush Gaming here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to make ruined walls with some cheap materials that you can find around the house and that you can find for very inexpensive at the hardware store. The tools that you'll need are also things that you probably already have on hand. So first, let's go over the tools that we use in making these walls. First, just something to measure with. It can be a ruler. I just use my tape measure that I normally use when gaming. Next, you'll need a really sharp knife. I like these utility knives because, as you can see, you can extend the blade to different lengths, and that long blade makes it easier to work with the foam and to cut through the foam. The next tool you'll need is a mechanical pencil. It doesn't matter if it has lead or not, because we're just going to be using the tip. And this is our tool that will actually draw our patterns with into the foam. Finally, you'll just need some old paint brushes that you can apply a lot of paint with and that you can do some dry brushing with. Nothing special here, just your old manky brushes will do just fine. So now that we've covered the tools that you'll need, let's talk about some of the materials that you'll need for making these walls. First, you'll need some cardboard. I like to use double corrugated because it's a little bit stronger and just gives you a little bit firmer base. This is going to be used for making a base for your terrain to sit on, so you want to make sure that it's pretty solid and not too flimsy. Next, you'll need just some regular white glue. This is going to be used for two purposes. The main purpose is going to be gluing the wall to the base. The other is an optional purpose. You can water this down really heavily and you can apply it all over your wall to help seal the foam so that it's protected if you decide to use any kind of spray paint. The Exhilarate will react with the foam, so you want to make sure that the wall is really well sealed or else it'll melt. The next thing that you'll need is just some black craft paint from the hobby store or from the craft store. This stuff is really cheap, it goes a mile, and it works really well to seal your foam and make it nice and hard. Then you'll need just some paints. These are going to be used to dry brush over the wall once we have the black paint on. Now you can use craft paint for this too. I just happen to have some Citadel pots here that are pretty close to running out, and I happen to like the colors for these particular walls. They work really well. And then finally, you'll need a piece of foam. That's this pink stuff back here. This is extruded polystyrene. It's normally used in insulation. You can pick it up at the hardware store, and you can generally get an 8x4 foot piece of 1/2 inch XPS. That's what I like to use, is the 1/2 inch from the hardware store for about 15 bucks. And I've been using the same 8x4 piece for a couple of years now, and I still have about half of it left. This stuff goes a mile as well, and it's well worth the investment of 15 bucks or so to have just a ton of this foam at your disposal to use for making walls. All right, so now that we've gone over the tools and materials that you'll need to build your wall, let's jump right in and figure out how we can turn this into this. All right, so the first thing that you'll want to do is measure out your wall. So the first thing you want to know is, how big of a wall do I need? For this video, I'm going to be making some walls for Frostgrave for when a wizard casts the spell wall. Now these walls say that they're 3 inches tall by 6 inches wide and roughly an inch thick. So what I'm going to do is just take my tape measure and measure out the wall that I need. So using my pencil that I'm going to draw with, I'll take and I'll measure from the edge 6 inches, and I'll just draw in a little indentation there. And then what I'll do is I'll come up along that line and I'll measure out to where 3 inches is. And then we'll draw that line in. And then I'll come in and I'll draw out the line that goes all the way to the edge. Now for these particular walls, I don't need to be super precise, but if you need more precision, just make sure you're using some kind of a ruler that's going to give you a nice solid line as you're drawing in your dimensions. But as you can see, there's our line blocked in, and we don't even need a marker or anything. We can just put the indentations in the foam. So now what we want to do is we want to cut this section out so we can start to work on it. I'm actually going to cut it off camera because it's a little bit difficult to cut while trying to stay in frame, but I will be using my knife to cut this. All right, so there is our section of wall cut out. Now, the next thing that we'll move into is drawing in the pattern. All right, so once we've cut out our piece of foam to be the wall, what we want to do is we want to draw in the pattern of the rocks or the bricks that make up the wall. And so what we'll do is we'll just start lightly pushing in with our pencil here to make our bricks. Now, since I'm doing bricks for these walls, the lines are going to be straight. The key here is you don't want to push too hard because you don't want to actually break the foam, because then the painting can become very rough and difficult. And so all you do is just draw in your straight lines here for your bricks. And as we get up to these sections where the wall is a little more damaged at the top, we just figure out where our bricks go. And then we'll come in and we'll draw vertical lines to represent our bricks. Now these don't have to be extremely symmetrical. They can be somewhat random to simulate that the bricks that the masons were using to build these walls were not all of the same size, and that the technology wasn't so great that they were able to make nice symmetrical walls. And so what we'll do is we'll carry on with this process, drawing in our verticals to get our separated bricks, and we will speed this up a bit so you guys can just see how I carry on with the section. Now, one thing that you can do to add a little bit more variation is you can make some of the larger sections look like they were made up of a lot of smaller bricks. So instead of one big stone, for instance, in this section, we'll come in and we'll just draw in some smaller stones. And by doing this, we just get a little bit of variation. And so what I like to do is just pick out a couple of sections. Sometimes you can space them really wide, sometimes you can put them really close together, just to show a little bit of variation in the way that the wall would have been built. And so what we'll do is we'll carry on doing a few more of those sections as well, and we'll show you those in QuickTime. Alright, now that we've blocked in all of our bricks on the flat surfaces, what we want to do is we want to put a little bit of definition onto the ends. And for this, you can just draw one simple line down the middle, like so. And then find your lines, like here, for where the bricks actually come in, and then just continue those lines around the corner. And so that is our bricks blocked in to make our walls. And you can do as many different variations of the small bricks and the large bricks as you like, just whatever you think looks good. If you want more ruined walls, you can do deeper cuts and deeper lines with your pencil. But the one thing that you'll run into that you'll notice, if you really bear down like this and get a hole in the wall, then you'll find that if you do that all over, first off, it'll take quite a long time. And then it will also definitely be more difficult to paint because it's going to be difficult to get your base color of paint into these holes. But if you really want that ruined look, go for it, dig in a little bit harder and really cut away some of the foam. Now that your bricks are drawn in onto your wall, the next thing we want to do is we want to seal this. And what we're going to use is just some regular old craft store paint. I like to use black here because it's going to give us nice shadows in the recesses. What I'm going to do is lay this on pretty heavy, and don't be afraid of filling in the detail that you've just drawn in, because when this dries, it'll soak down in there and you won't have to worry about it. Put it on pretty thick because you're trying to get it sealed. We'll show you how to do this in fast motion. And there's our wall section all painted up nice and black. So let that dry good before you move on to the next step. Okay, now that our black base coat has dried and sealed our wall, what we want to do is we want to do an overbrush of the color that we want our wall to be. Now this is like a dry brush, but just with a little bit more paint on the brush to help really get our color, but it'll still leave our recesses showing with the black. So just going to show you a little bit of this and then we'll speed it up. All right, now that our base of gray is in, what we'll do is we'll go back in with a lighter gray and we'll highlight some of these rocks, some of these blocks up to give us a little bit more contrast and just a little bit more color to the wall. All right, so there we have it. With some gray worked in over the stones, You can use a lot of different amounts of paint so you get some different colors in your stones. And if you find that some of your black lines that should be the mortar between your stones has gotten some gray in it, you can always go back over this, you know, with some kind of a black wash, and it'll seep right in there and fill those cracks up. Now that we're ready to base, all we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of cardboard that is just big enough for the wall to sit on. And we're going to round the corners off a little bit so it looks kind of natural. Just do that with your scissors. And the next step is make sure it fits nice. And we'll take a little bit of PVA and glue it on. So just a little bit of your regular old Elmer's white glue. Just apply a line of glue right to the bottom of your wall. Center it up neatly. And let that sit to dry. And that is really all it takes to turn a simple piece of extruded polystyrene into a nice looking wall that you can use for terrain. Now obviously you can take these concepts and apply them to making buildings, to making ruined wall sections like the one we showed at the beginning. There's lots of applications that you can do with this simple technique. Now in a future video, I'll talk about how I base this. Maybe we'll do a tutorial over how to do the snow effect that was on the piece from the beginning of the video. But since this video was just for the walls, we're gonna stop here with this one because we figured out how to make a nice looking wall out of a piece of pink foam. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have any easy tips and quick tips that you'd like to share on how you make simple terrain, put them in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.